Hello and welcome everybody. Welcome back to our episode on how to make your website faster. This is Season 1, Episode 4, Compress, Combine, and Minify. In the first 3 episodes, we covered turning on Expire headers, optimizing images, and today we're going to talk about the next optimization that you can make to your website to make your website faster. We use the term biggest bang for the buck quite a bit in our show, and we think that this is the next step and the next evolution that you should do to your site is to make sure compression is turned on, to make sure that you're combining and minifying your JavaScript and CSS files. In today's show, we're going to show you how to do that and give you some tips and tricks and discuss tips and tricks and discuss it along the way.
Cool. Last of the season.
Finale.
So who knows? We'll have to see if people like this. We might be back. We'll do another season. We'll pick some other good topics. But for this one, today's our last one. And like Dave said, combine, compress, minify. Very good topic. Very big win for a lot of websites. So definitely some good tips coming up for you. Along with that, we want to make sure that we throw out some swag your way. If you got any questions, good or bad, throw them in the chat. And we got Colby here in the studio with us, who's watching the chat. And we're going to give away 2 or 3, I suppose, of these awesome GoDaddy mugs to the 2 or 3. What should we do? Best questions?
Sure, best.
Why not? Best? Who decides what's best?
I will.
Oh. Okay, so Dave's gonna look at the questions, and we'll make sure that the 3 best questions get a mug.
Yeah, and also since it's the last of the season, if you liked the show and you liked the episode, you'd like it to continue, feel free to let us know in the comment section.
Yep, hit us up, throw it on Twitter, throw some Google Pluses in there. We'll like it.
Right. We also have a guest with us today, right?
Absolutely. Kyle is back. Kyle from Athletes Brand, the athletesbrand.com, the awesome website that sells sports apparel, and part of the revenue of the sports apparel go to all kinds of right.
To a variety of charities that are picked by professional athletes that support the cause, and it's based on their selection, so it's a pretty neat program.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hey Kyle, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. It's always good to be on with you guys.
Yeah,
Great,
good deal.
thanks.
So Kyle, we've been looking at your website since pretty much since episode 1. Changed a bunch of things. I think, well, I'll let you be the judge if your site has gotten any better over the last few episodes.
Yeah, no, it's a lot faster. Just from the web pages test to it shows the proof of how much quicker the website's actually going. So that's awesome.
Very cool. Very
Great.
cool. So I think the same will go for the last topic on compress, combine, and minify. Any experience with that? Are you familiar with these terms?
I am a little bit now. After working with you guys, I'd never heard of it. Never really knew that it was a way to make the website faster. But now that you can kind of see the proof comparing it to other websites and whatnot, you can see that it does work. It does make it faster. It's just trying to find a way to make it work on my website now is all. So
yeah,
very cool.
We were able to do the turning on of the Expire headers on your website, and and we did the image optimization, and we did get together with Kyle before the show, and we were experimenting with a WordPress plugin, WP Minify Fix.
Yep.
Although it broke.
Very cool plugin, by the way. Great plugin.
It is. It's a great plugin. It works great. I've had really good experience with it, but it broke Kyle's site. And but that's okay. We learned something out of it.
Okay.
We'll show you some of the details of that. We'll talk about why it broke and what you have to do to try to fix it. And we did make a pledge to Kyle that we would come back and take his site. We needed a little bit more time. We thought we were going to be able to do this very rapidly, but we didn't quite get it.
So we told Kyle this is the easiest thing to do. ABC, let's go. XYZ. But yeah, I think it's only fair enough for us to also state that these things aren't always as simple as a checkbox or a button. Right. Some things are, some things are not. It really largely depends on how your site's built, what kind of JavaScript you got on your site, but also very importantly where in your page the JavaScript needs to be loaded, right? So we'll get into some more details about combining Minify and how that can hugely benefit, but also in
Right.
Kyle's case sometimes break things. So we gotta go through this with a little bit of care, be careful, know what you're doing, test, retest, retest, retest until it works, and then roll it.
Yeah, that's the method when it doesn't work. But for a lot of you, for our audience, the tips that we're going to give you are extremely easy to do if you're in the right category, and you just, almost as easy as checking a box, turn it on, and both the compression as well as the Minify and combination. If you use a plugin for a common, WordPress or there's other ones for other blogging systems and whatnot. So
we'll definitely go through those,
right?
And so I guess let's start with compress. And in the case of Kyle on Athlete's Brand, it was extremely easy for Kyle to get through that step because, what was it, Kyle? Compression was already turned on and you didn't even know it.
Yeah. So it was already making my site faster.
Excellent. And Kyle, you told us that it was probably turned on by GoDaddy support folks when you were doing the commercial with Danica, who, by the way, I see in the background.
Yeah. I know. I think GoDaddy set that up for me.
Yeah, awesome. So we checked Kyle's site, and as we went through the episodes, we showed you web page test results of Kyle's site, and there was a big green A on compressed transfer, and we looked at least all the way back to February. It was already turned on, so that's great. Compression, why? First of all, reduce the size of your page. I mean, it's that simple. The smaller your page, the less traffic you have to transfer over the network, and that's just simply a good thing. Less traffic, less going back and forth. That's definitely a good thing. And besides that, it's the easiest thing in the world.
And it's very easy to turn on, and it's done at a global level. You click a button and it's turned on.
Yep.
And it dramatically reduces the size of your site.
Absolutely.
As opposed to the other tip that we're going to tell you about, Minify, which reduces the size of the files by a little bit.
Yep.
Where compression, you're talking 50%, sometimes 80 or 90% reduction in file size.
Perfect. Yeah, I think a lot of people are probably familiar with compressing things. You've all heard about zip files or RAR files. We use it all the time. Compress and pack up things before you send out an email. Saves the receiver of the email a lot of time downloading that email. And in other words, size on the internet is a big thing. So we want to reduce the size of your website by compressing. And I think, Dave, you have a couple of slides you want to share here on how we can do that on a few different common platforms out there. Right?
So in cPanel, the way that you turn on compression is look for the optimized website icon in your cPanel interface. Click on that, and on the next screen there is a box for it'll be disabled by default, and you just have to turn it on. Click compress all content. There really are no cons to turning this on, and you should do so. And you'll see the option for compress the specified MIME types. I'd recommend not worrying about that. Just compress all content. Don't worry about trying to pick which things it's going to compress and which things it's not. The reason that those options are there for old browsers like IE6 and before had a lot of difficulty with compressed files, and you had to kind of pick and choose carefully which ones that you did, and a lot of that is kind of still with us today, but it's really obsolete as far as I'm concerned. As long as you consider IE6 to be obsolete, which I do, then you don't have to worry about these things. So moving on to Manage WordPress is one of the GoDaddy products that we sell, and the compression is turned on. There's really nothing to do, nothing for you to do. There's no option for you to turn it off. It's just it's on because it's a good idea. The same thing with our Windows hosting offering. Plesk, it's turned on. There's nothing for you to do.
Okay.
We did put there's a snippet that you can put in your web.config file to turn it on and turn it off and to change its behavior if you were so inclined. But really there's no reason to do that unless you were hosted somewhere else where it wasn't turned on and you wanted to know how to turn it on. We put it in there.
Cool.
So
those are some GoDaddy hosting products and more generic hosting products. cPanel is out there, and Plesk, and people that just run a web server, two big flavors, maybe three: Apache, Nginx, IIS. I'm sure it's not it's maybe not as simple as going through an interface and clicking on something, right?
Right. If you're using like a managed VPS product, for example, or
Exactly.
or you're on a like a dedicated server where you're the server admin and you want to know, how do I turn this on myself?
Yep.
The manual way. Well, we've got some slides that we could talk to. Marcel, do you want to tell people how you modify the htaccess file?
So on an Apache server, there's an htaccess file that you can store in the root of your web document root, as it's known as. If you take this block of text and stick that in the htaccess file, save the htaccess file, and restart your HTTPD daemon, as you can see, this file tells the web server to go through certain MIME types and compress them.
Like most things, there's more than one way to skin the cat, right?
Yeah, so Apache is used and overused in all kinds of ways and fashions, and sometimes maybe the previous slide, the block of text may not work. Here's an alternative way to do it with the add output filter by type lines again in your htaccess file.
Right. There's even another way that you can do it where you can say, you can do add filter by type deflate text /star. You can just put a star and it'll cover all the text,
everything text,
which I would highly recommend.
Yep.
And then some of the others. You could also add in there filter by type star/star, which is a good good thing to do. Although you'll notice in the previous output there's this one in here that I thought was interesting. It says exclude MIME image, because there really isn't a reason to compress an image that's already compressed.
Because you've already optimized them 2 episodes ago.
Yes.
Right. So that's for Apache. 2 ways to do it. I think there's one here on Nginx in your config file. These are the lines that you can throw in there. The command is just simply gzip on and then a bunch of different gzip settings that you put in the file there. Kind of the same disclaimer here for IE6 and below. Have some trouble with some compression, so there's some lines in there for Nginx to make sure that for those browsers that's taken care of.
All right. So these are some pretty advanced ways of turning on compression at the server level. This is really meant for server administrators, people that. But these will also work even as just a site owner. In a shared environment where the hosting provider didn't turn it on for you, you can manipulate your .htaccess file that sits in your document root, add these lines in there, and have your compression turned on. Yep.
And then of course for the IIS web servers out there, IIS 6 and 7, we put some screenshots in here so that you can find your way to those dialog boxes and turn compression on. I honestly did not find if IIS either 6 or 7 turns them on by default. I'm not sure, but go and have a look at your server if you have access to it and see if these checkboxes are turned on. There's also a link there to the articles that describe in-length compression on IIS.
And we showed you earlier also there's that web.config file, right? And so that's a way that you can manipulate IIS on a per site basis.
Exactly.
All right. So
that's all about compression. That's really all we had. I think the point of compression is clear. Reduce file size, throw less traffic on the internet. That'll benefit everybody. Colby, do we have any questions so far? No? Okay. We'll keep moving then. And jump to Combine and Minify, which is certainly not as easy as we've just shown how easy compression is. Dave, you want to?
Yeah, let's jump in and talk about combining and minifying your files. So if you have a WordPress or another CMS that has plugins to do this for you automatically, they're good to use. I've had a lot of success with WP Minify Fixed is the name of a plugin that I've used in WordPress, and what this makes it is so that you just kind of click it on and it happens. And so what it does is it identifies all of the CSS, that's your cascading style sheets, and your JavaScripts that are present in the page load, and it takes all the CSS and rewrites all of it into a single CSS file, and then takes all the JavaScript and rewrites it into a single JavaScript file. And doing this for you automatically is very convenient, so you don't have to figure out, a lot of these CSSs and WordPress especially and JavaScripts are coming from all the other plugins. Say, you need to throw this CSS and this JavaScript, and you can end up with 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, even 100 sometimes, lots of little small files.
JavaScripts, yeah.
And although combining doesn't necessarily reduce the total file size, it reduces greatly the number of round trips that your site has to make back and forth.
Yep.
So we did mention that already. We're kind of reiterating. So to talk to this slide just a second, in this particular example, I did a generic WordPress page without any additional plugins and ran it without WP Minify Fix, then installed WP Minify Fix, and then ran it again. And what I got was, in this particular case, 270 kilobytes reduced to 90 kilobytes. It's actually a lot more than you usually get in terms of the reduction in size, and far fewer round trips, which is basically a faster web page. Excuse the jump in slides there. Didn't realize that my fingers were going to make the screen move like that.
So your reduction in size is very likely here from minification, I suppose. So minification is one of the things that happens is a lot of JavaScript and programmers like to do this while they're programming. Their variable names actually mean something. So names of variables are very long. Instead of having variable name A or X or Z or Y. So one of the things that minification does is it actually shortens the names of variables from sometimes 10, 15, 20 character long variable names to single character or double character.
And that's how the Minify gets, makes the file size smaller, right?
Right, and take out white space, a lot of extra spaces, comments that are in JavaScript files are stripped out by the minification process. So you can end up actually with a bit of a size reduction here by using minification.
Let's show Kyle's website here. This is athletesbrand.com. You'll notice it's a very feature-rich, graphic-rich. It's got some really great graphics on it. It looks, fantastic. When we first started, the file size of this was closer to, total page size 3.5 megs, and now it's about 1.5 meg, which is a lot more average. And so 1.5 meg, in my opinion, is really good, considering how just visually appealing this website is.
Yep.
And if you turn on I'm using Chrome, and I'm going to turn on my Chrome developer tools here. And with my Chrome developer tools turned on, I'm going to hit the reload button and pull this up to kind of show you an example of a site that could use some combination and minification.
You bet. Yep.
And
look at all the JavaScript and CSS on this page, right?
Yes, you'll see when you use this tool, you can see all the different pages that all the pieces of the page that loaded, and you'll notice there's a JavaScript, a CSS, a CSS, a JavaScript, a JavaScript, 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 CSS, JavaScript, 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 JavaScript. So that's a lot of JavaScripts and a lot of CSSs that could be not. Minification might reduce the size a little bit, but more importantly, combining them will change the number of requests from.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Kyle, anything that you'd like to add about your experience with attempting to do this and our promise to make your site right soon?
Yeah, no. One big thing too. I know because I'm not a tech whiz at all, and when I hear that the site was broken, I mean, I kind of feel like that's something that you have to go through a lot of work to fix to get it back up. So when you're trying these plugins out and whatnot, all you have to do is turn them off. Your site returns back to normal. So when we tried it on mine, what happened was it broke the site, so everything wasn't pretty and laid out the way it is right now. Is broken down into all the codes. All I had to do was turn it back off to get the site restored back to normal, that plugin. So it's a quick fix. It's worth a try, and I'm looking forward to getting it figured out on my website to minify all this. I know it will make it a lot faster. You can see just how much JavaScripts have to load.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, we did start digging already in for WordPress Minify fixed plugin specifically, there are some ways to troubleshoot this with developer tools like the ones in Chrome or Firebug in Firefox. So we'll get there, and it'll definitely make a difference on your site for sure.
Right.
Awesome.
Okay, I've got one more demo to show on screen, where this is a web page text capture of hostingperformance.guru before I installed the WP Minify Fixed on the left, and then after I installed WP Minify Fixed on the right. And the thing to notice here is the number of requests and the bytes. 40 requests, 652 bytes before, and then after 30 requests, 638 bytes. So 638 bytes is not a really big dramatic reduction in bytes, but the 40 requests to 30 requests certainly is a significant reduction.
That's 25%. That's pretty cool.
And almost more importantly, by the way, if you can't see the screen because it's just not big enough, I'm going to zoom in here, but also Kobe is going to paste the pictures onto the site so that you can zoom in and see these. I want to point something out here. This header.png file at the 14th spot in the before snapshot is a critical component to the site and the visual appeal of the site, and it's actually a fairly big file. It's the biggest file, and it takes the longest to download. So really want to get that.
It would probably also be the first thing that people actually see.
Yes.
Right. Up till this point, your screen's blank.
That's a good, that's a good point. It's the first thing they see, so you want this to start painting as soon as possible. Now you'll notice that in the after screenshot, that header PNG file is now in the 4th spot, and the reason for that is you'll notice that the first page, the initial HTML followed by a single CSS and a single JavaScript, and then that header is pulling in. Instead of CSS, 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 JavaScript, 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 you get the point. It's a lot of JavaScript, a lot of CSSs that can be combined into one file.
Yeah, and what's really cool to see here too, I can point out, and this what really brought it home for me when I first kind of started playing with this stuff is notice how on the left side in the before snapshot, there are 6 things happening sort of at the same time. Spot number 2 through spot number 7. They're all happening at the same time. But why isn't there a 7th and an 8th and a 9th and a 10th thing happening at that time? Because browsers only support a maximum number of connections to the same host. Right. So all this stuff is coming off of the same host, hosting performance guru. Sorry. And after the first 6 are loading and are active, the browser has to wait before it starts with number 7, 8, 9, and 10, and so on. And because your image is in spot 14, it has to wait for the first 12 things to sort of be done before it can kick in. And because it's now on the right side in the after situation, it's part of the first 6 things. So it starts off right away after the root page is loaded.
So this file down here actually starts its download at about 0.7 seconds, where over here on the right-hand side, this header PNG is starting its load at just about 0.4 seconds. So
and it's in the first group of 6 things.
Yes,
that's what makes a big difference for me.
This is interesting too. Notice this first CSS. It says 232 milliseconds to download the first CSS. We're over here on the right, 615 milliseconds. It took a lot longer to download. But it's because it's downloading all of these as one file, not a series of other ones. Now,
because it's a single file, other things can start at the same time.
Other things can start downloading.
That's a great thing.
Yes. Right. And now, certainly, if the only thing that you were going to load was these 6, it may actually be like this one. The one CSS file took 615 milliseconds, right?
Yep.
Now, the sum of these first 6 that are on here, the maximum one was 227 milliseconds. So if you didn't have anything else to download, you'd be better at doing them in parallel. But in this particular case, what you're doing is allowing all the other files to start downloading simultaneously rather than
most importantly, you're starting an image sooner. So the user sees something on the screen, he feels the site's loading, I'm not waiting for anything anymore. It gives you that perception feeling for the user that the page is coming up.
Right.
Cool. So that's a great improvement on that side there. So Combine Minify, definitely check it out. Like we said, if you're on WordPress, try out the WP Minify Fix. Very, very good plugin. But of course, not everybody's on WordPress, right? And we want everybody to be able to go and play with this and see if they can combine and minify their JavaScript and CSS.
Right. So for the webmasters in the group,
exactly. Yep.
There's some code out there on Google Code that that Minify is actually the one that we were talking about. WP Minify Fix, WP Minify, W3 Total Cache, Zen Framework. Why they all use this this library that is publicly available. It's open source, and so certainly if you're a developer, this is the one that you would want to go check out. Although if that's more complex, you know, I don't have There's that other group. I have I don't have WordPress. I don't have Joomla or one of these other CMSs. I have my own site, so I have to do this myself. But this code is way too complex for me. What do I do? And the answer is online tools.
Online tools. Yeah.
You know, if you just search for Minify JS or Minify CSS, you'll find a mountain of online tools, as well as
yeah, we kind of looked and thought maybe we can throw one or two out there, but there's so many because it's an automated process. There's many guys out there and gals that have set up websites that do it for you. You can either choose to copy and paste the contents of your JavaScript file, throw it on a website, and it'll spit out a minified version of that JavaScript or CSS. Or I've seen sites where you can just upload 5, 10, 15 JavaScripts, and it'll give you one JavaScript file back. That's combined and minified.
Awesome.
Very cool. Right?
And I probably use this Google Code Minify in the back end
probably.
too. You know, it seems to be the de facto utility for doing that.
Yeah.
Also, one last point about this is the when you're using a common library like jQuery, right? There's often you'll see a choice of .min.js or a choice of .min.cs.
Yep.
Sometimes it doesn't have the min in it. Always use the one on your site. Always use the one with the min in it.
Correct.
The full size one is there only so that if you want to, you're developing it. It's actually really hard to work within a minified file. So that's you want to hold on to and keep your regular files for maintenance and development, but then have a way of then converting it to a minified version very easily.
Yep. But make sure you don't end up with 15 minified JavaScripts. Right? That wouldn't be a good thing. You still want to then combine them.
Right.
Right. So get the minified ones, but if you do end up then again with 15 minified JavaScripts, you're still doing 15 round trips. So you still want to see if you can combine all those minified ones.
Good point.
Right.
Well,
Kyle, you got anything else to add?
We did try the W3 Total Cache on my site, and it worked minimally. So that's one thing to throw out there. If
Good
the
point.
other one doesn't work, then that one does work, and at least for my website, it worked at a smaller scale.
That's a really good
point.
Good point. Yeah, there's a few others that you could try too. See if I can.
I don't remember any specifics.
What was the name of? There were two others that we experimented with, but great point, Kyle. And what didn't work with the W3 Total Cache? What we said it didn't break the site, but it didn't do what we wanted it to either. Wasn't that the point?
It combined, didn't take in all of the JavaScript.
It's like combined two of them, not all of them, or something. It just didn't quite do what we wanted it to.
Yeah. So
I think the point here is. Especially in WordPress, because it's so easy to turn plugins on and off. Turn one on, run your site, with a fresh new hit on the site. Maybe open up your developer tools and see what's happening in the background. If it doesn't work for you, or your site looks all strange without CSS, turn the plugin off and your site's back to normal. And go and look for tips and tricks out there, or of course call GoDaddy support and see if they can help you.
Right. Now, guys, I really want to thank you, the audience, for participating and joining us in our series. I know a few of you have been on every one of the episodes, and we really appreciate you doing that. These are all posted on. If you're interested on youtube.com/GoDaddy, inside of the events section, you'll find every one of the videos. So if you were interested in going back and seeing some of the past shows, you can do that. And like we mentioned at the beginning of the show, this was our final finale of the season.
Right.
Not to say that we won't do another season of it.
We
We've
might
had
be
some
back.
requests for some much more, complex topics, and there's people that want to get into some advanced topics, and,
Sure.
and maybe we could start to do that if there's some inquiry for that. So
Okay. So
we definitely
let us know.
encourage you, post comments if you want to see more. And for as far as do we really have no questions, or are they just coming up somewhere else? No questions.
All
No
right.
questions. Well, guys, even if we had 2 coffee mugs to give out too, right? I mean, if you get a question in there in the next in the next couple minutes, even though we're not here to answer it,
Sure. Put your questions on below the YouTube video or on Google Plus, GoDaddy's page on Google Plus. We'll catch them, and we'll know where to find you.
get in touch with you, and
Otherwise, I'll take them home.
send you a neat mug.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, Colby. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank
for
you
being
guys.
there, and we'll definitely be back with you and fix up your website once and for all.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.